We now move on to the final session, which is titled as Supporting Families Impacted by a Childhood Cancer Diagnosis. And we have two speakers, experts here, Katie Andrew, who is the Beneficiary Engagement Executive at the Teens Unite, and Helen Pearson, you all know, who is a Chief Nurse at the SKC. So over to you, Katie, in terms of speaking about the importance of psychosocial support for patients and families affected by childhood cancer. We do not have a panel discussion following this session, so you will have an opportunity to ask both Katie as well as Helen immediately after their talk, 1 or 2 questions. Thank you.
Make sure I've got the right clicker first. There we go. So my name's Katie and I'm the Beneficiary Engagement Manager at Teens Unite. A big thank you to the Solving Kids Cancer team for inviting me along today to speak about the importance of psychosocial support for patients and families affected by childhood cancer. So obviously, as being the parents, young people or families going through this, you'll be very aware of the challenges firsthand and potentially the need for psychosocial support already. So as you probably know, the impact of cancer obviously lasts long before the end of treatment. A diagnosis is life-changing for a young person and it disrupts a lot more than just their physical health, but their normalcy and sense of independence as well. As you probably know, there's big gaps in medical care at the moment, which mean that, of course, physical health is prioritised, but that does mean that there are gaps in the support for young people in terms of their emotional, physical, social and social well-being. Due to long wait times and limited resources, a lot of psychosocial support isn't available through the NHS, and that is where charities such as Teens Unite and Solving Kids Cancer come in to fill those gaps. No matter how long it's been since a young person's diagnosis, it can continue to affect their mental health, confidence and self-esteem, friendships and relationships, education and employment, and social inclusion. And that isn't just through childhood, but leading into adolescence and adulthood as well. So following a cancer diagnosis in young people, 96% will experience a negative impact on their mental health, 77% will report finding work difficult after treatment, 87% will lose contact with their friends, and 83% will experience loneliness. Despite this, yet almost half of young people diagnosed with cancer are without NHS support for the mental health impacts of their diagnosis. And that is why the need for psychosocial support is so important, so that they can counteract the emotional impacts on their well-being. So what are the benefits of psychosocial support? So if unaddressed, as I mentioned, the effects of cancer in children and young people can follow them into adulthood. And that is why psychosocial support is so important to help young people overcome mental health problems associated with cancer, such as anxiety, depression, and PTSD, helping to motivate young people to live more positively with their diagnosis and to thrive beyond treatment, not just survive, encouraging a return to education or entering employment, giving them the confidence to believe and achieve and to realise their potential, and to also support their reintegration into society, forming bonds, feeling included, and finding friendship. So where does Teens Unite fit into that? So we are a charity working to support young people living with and beyond cancer. We have been doing for the past 18 years, and we support young people who are 13 to 24, regardless of where they may be on their cancer journey. So whether they're currently on treatment, post-treatment, or years into remission, we're here to support them whenever and for as long as they may need our support. So what exactly does that support look like? We host a variety of different programs, activities, and events that help young people not only to meet others in a similar situation, but to enjoy new experiences, learn new skills, help them return to work or education, to rebuild their confidence, and most importantly, to be a young person at a time where we know that that can feel really, really difficult. So those range from events such as graffiti workshops to LinkedIn masterclasses. We recently held a programme with Chelsea Football Club, helping young people get back into physical activity. So lots of different activities that help them get a little bit more engaged, because the activity is fun and exciting and shiny, but when they come along, they do really reap the rewards of that psychosocial support, knowing that there's a community of other young people who understand what they're going through and how they're feeling. So the impact of our support following young people attending our digital and in-person activities: 100% feel better connected and less lonely, 94% look forward to life beyond cancer, 91% feel an improvement on their mental health, and 100% feel ready to make positive changes to improve their life. And we're very aware that that support isn't just needed for young people, but for families and parents such as yourself as well. And so that is why this year we introduce familial support. So we host a variety of different events for the parents and siblings of young people. For parents, that looks like a digital support session every single month, which we've called the Parent Space. And that is where we essentially, the same as we create for the young people, create a digital space where parents can connect with others who understand. So it's a chance to talk about different topics. So far, we've spoken about things from mental health support, so sharing resources that are available, to talking about travel insurance, or topics such as body confidence of their children following their diagnosis, but also making sure to remember that prioritising your own mental well-being is so important as well. So those are really important spaces for parents and families. And then for siblings, we host quarterly events where they can connect with other siblings who understand. So I know that I think there was a question asked earlier about the support for siblings. We recognise that it's a really difficult time for them. Siblings usually can feel forgotten, they can feel left behind and a little bit out of that situation at that time. And so we host events where they can meet other siblings who understand. And coming up actually in April, we have got what we've called our Fashion Forward event, which is a space where young people can come together, so the registered young person and their sibling, and take part in activities like upcycling, patchwork, where they can enjoy an experience and also meet other young people. Finally, we have our Family Fun Days, which are a chance for the whole family to come together and meet other families who understand. So we recently held our first ever Teens Unite Bake Off, where we had 60 individuals come along and take part in a baking day. And that wasn't only a chance for, as I mentioned, families to meet other families, but also to have a chance to enjoy a day at a time where we know that finances can impact the ability to have fun days out and things like that. So I've now just got a really short video, if it will play, it will, which I always say, as much as I can go on about the need for this support and for psychosocial support in general and the impact of that, I think it's much more impactful hearing that from the young people themselves. So you'll hear from a couple of them who attended one of our residential stays about the impact and the benefits of connecting with other young people in a similar situation. So hopefully this works.
When you tell people you have cancer, I like to call it the cancer goggles. Their whole expression changes and they suddenly look at you as this whole new person. It's a lot better when you have people who look at you as a normal person rather than a cancer patient. I'm still me, I'm still a human being. There's more to me than just my cancer.
Every time you're given a bad diagnosis or something, you have to look at the positive things, and Teens Unite is definitely one of those positive things.
We all understand each other, and it's so easy to talk to one another because you don't have that awkwardness of saying, oh yeah, I've been diagnosed with so-and-so. Everyone's in the same boat, so yeah, it's so easy to make friends here, and everyone's so kind and generous and thoughtful, and we all help each other to get through things that we thought we couldn't get through, so definitely made friends for life.
It's such a warm, welcoming, fun atmosphere, and there's such a big network of people and friends, and they really understand you. They're just like a bit of a ray of sunshine.
Teens Unite is one of the few cancer charities who understand that once treatment stops, once you get the all clear, once you're discharged from hospital, that's not, and they all lived happily ever after. There's still a lot of mental and psychological baggage from having gone through such a traumatic thing.
I can't picture my life without Teens Unite now. I wouldn't be as confident. I think I'd probably be a bit more lonely in terms of like who I can talk to about my cancer journey.
But it seems to be like that at all the events, really, the Teens Unite does. People just get along really quickly and easily because we all have something in common, well, at least one thing in common.
It's helped me push myself to my limits, doing rock climbing and raft building, things that I never even thought I'd be able to do again when I was in my darkest moments or on chemo. And we get to do this in such a great supportive environment when we're all helping each other. It's helped me learn new skills, get new experiences and make potentially lifelong friends.
So as you heard from some of the young people on that video, just having that space to connect with other young people who understand. Something that I always say when I first speak to young people when they register with us is that we aren't a support group. We aren't, I'm completely non-medical in my role and my history. We don't offer any formal counselling or therapy or anything like that. We know that there are some amazing charities and organisations that do, and we'll signpost young people towards those. However, Teens Unite really is about being a young person in a space which is comfortable and surrounded by others who understand. It isn't somewhere where cancer is the main topic of conversation. It's something that everyone there has in common, but a lot of the time young people don't speak about their diagnosis. It's just knowing that if they get a bit of brain fog or need to go home early or need to cancel last minute, no one's wondering why, because everyone in that room has either been there or is right there with them as well. So registering is really quick and easy to do. So if your child or you would be looking to access our family support, you can go onto our website on the QR code there. I've also popped the website link on there as well. And our support is for young people 13 to 24. However, I would urge you, if your child is a little bit younger than that, please do still reach out so that we can stay in touch and let you know once they are old enough and eligible for that support. My contact details are also on there if you have any questions, but I'll also be hanging around for the rest of the afternoon. But I just wanted to leave you with the thought of inviting you to consider how psychosocial support has potentially shaped yours or your child's experience so far. And if you feel like it hasn't, how might that benefit you? And I'm always welcome to suggestions for parent and familial support as well, so please do reach out. But yes, a big thank you. And I think we might have time for 1 or 2 questions, if anyone has any. If not, no worries. No? Thank you. Yeah.
There we have.
Thank you, that was really lovely. A lot of what I've heard in the last 2 days has been really uplifting. Some of it was very new to me, some of it sadly is very well aware of. But to come into the Teens Unite, our daughter now is nearly 14 in a couple of weeks. She was high risk, stage 4, very significantly poorly at 18 months of age, and so we've travelled this journey for many years now, and we're at a stage now with the orthodontics was very interesting because as much as she's had so much treatment and all these horrible things that have been done to save her life, the big consideration for Anya at the moment is her teeth, and that's a typical teen worry of hers. This is very interesting for our family because we're at a stage where this is the kind of thing we need to reach out to now, and part of me personally thinks hide the C word from her, pretend it never happened, don't give her a stigma that she can hide behind she had cancer so she's eligible to not go to school or not do her homework, blah, 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 blah. But I think this has been very key for me the last 2 days to realise that you embrace it more than what I perhaps would have wanted to do. And thank you for that. In terms of the question now, is this a nationwide, is it a UK-wide, or is it based predominantly in the south? We live in Chester, in the middle of the country. How easily accessible? That video was very inspiring, but she would not fit in with that age range at this stage. Is it categorised into a smaller, a subdivided sort of 13 to 15, 18 to 20, you know what I'm saying? So age predominant and regionalised, please.
Yeah, of course. No, well, first of all, thank you for sharing yours and your daughter's experience. I think something that we hear a lot from the young people that we're supporting is that long-term impact. Often it isn't until 2-3 years post-treatment or post-remission that they really sort of do start struggling in that silence of when hospital appointments might end, when they maybe are no longer coming across other young people in hospital or in other medical environments, and it's that silence of, okay, it's time to get back to my new normal now, whatever that might look like. That's often when they really would benefit the most from being connected with others who do really understand how they're feeling. In terms of our support, I apologise, standing up in front of a very lovely group of people isn't usually in my day job, so I probably have forgotten lots of information that I was meant to include. But we support 13 to 24-year-olds, so that often is split into 2 age categories. So some of our events are open for the entire age range. I know that that feels really broad. However, we do find that a lot of the time that the older ones sort of take the younger ones under their wing. They share experiences, advice. However, we do also have age-specific events, so under 18s in half-term and school holidays and things like that. At the moment, our residential stays are for over 18s. However, fingers crossed, I'm working on getting some for under 18s really soon. And then in terms of locations, we're based in Broxbourne in Hertfordshire. However, we support young people across the UK. So the main sort of focus of our events are in London and the South East, purely from an accessibility point of view and from where we're based. However, we do meetups around the country. So each month we go to a different area of the UK. We've been up to Leeds so far, down to Brighton, Plymouth, heading up to Scotland for the first time this year, which is exciting. And basically bringing those events on the road and taking them to different areas of the country. And then we also have our digital support as well. So that means that young people can access that support from wherever they may be in the country, but also regardless of how well they're feeling, if they're not able to travel that day, that just makes our events a little bit more accessible for them as well.
I think just leading on from that, our daughter joined a couple of years ago and they send the packages through the post. She did pancake making last week.
That looked great.
Do it online.
I missed it, but it looked great.
But they do like pottery painting online. They have Reiki, which she wishes was monthly because she absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
But she really looks forward to it because she's not well enough to travel a lot of the time. But she has been bowling and she absolutely loves it. So I really, really recommend it. She loves it.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, of course. And please do pop me an email or give us a call as well if you have any more questions.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you once again for this really informative time. So with that, we come to our last but not the least speaker, Helen Pearson, who has been a national champion and will be speaking on this in terms of supporting parents through their treatment decision-making. Over to you, Helen.
Thanks, Ramya. So I've got the last slot of the day, so we'll see how this goes. So I'm going to talk about the work we've been doing in supporting parents in treatment decision-making. We've heard over the last few days, and decision-making has come up a lot. And this has really stemmed from my clinical role, working at the Marsden, currently as an advanced nurse practitioner for children and young people diagnosed with solid tumours. So what I'm just going to cover is a bit about what is decision-making, what the research to date has been until we kind of did the REDMAP study, and talk about some of the animation work we've been doing to support the high-risk 2 clinical trial, and then REDMAP, and then the REDMAP website. So what the literature says about decision-making, it's about commitment to a course of action, particularly when there's one or more options available. And the literature also talks about distinguishing decision-making into kind of 3 different processes. So rational decision-making, which is conscious, usually often used in kind of finance and economics. You can really rationalise the decision that you've made and the reasons why you've made that. And then kind of the descriptive psychological is all about kind of the gut, the intuition, the knowledge and experience that you build as parents kind of over time, and how that kind of informs your decision-making. And some of that is conscious and some of that isn't conscious, and it's just intuitive. And then a little bit around kind of emotional decision-making, which hasn't really been just described in the literature that well to date, because it's not an easy thing to kind of articulate, but acknowledgement that emotions are involved in decision-making, particularly in tricky decision-making and within healthcare, and very much within cancer care. So what does the research say about parent treatment decision-making in children's cancer? So it says that parents want to be involved in making treatment decisions. They very much value that partnership approach with their child's healthcare team, in particular their child's medical consultant. And actually they require really good quality information that kind of addresses their concerns and make sure they're informed in the decisions that they're making. And also very much around what their own individual values and preferences are, which are very subjective. And so there are underpinning factors, so things like uncertainty, that hope for a cure, and also their fear that their child may die, and also the influencing factors in terms of opinions of healthcare professionals, speaking with other parents, the neuroblastoma community, and also their child's wishes depending on kind of age. And we kind of know that standard of care, so the HR2 clinical trial care is, driven by healthcare professionals, but actually when these treatment strategies fail, this is when parents tend to get involved. So in terms of kind of supporting decision-making in frontline treatments, so obviously we know we've got the HR2 clinical trial, but obviously within that there's different randomizations, and your child's just been diagnosed with cancer, and suddenly you're thrown into this medical terminology of the jargons that we love to use, but actually, what does that mean? What is a clinical trial? What is a randomization? What are the two different options? How's that going to affect my child? And so we've developed some animation videos that really support the gold standard of giving information, which is around kind of visual, verbal, and written formats. So these videos were developed by the National Neuroblastoma Nursing Group, of which I chair, and they're 8 videos. So the first video I'm going to show a short clip now is all about what is neuroblastoma, what is a clinical trial, what's standard of care, what is randomization, and then a video for each section within the HR2 protocol, and explaining if there is a randomization within that, what that means. So if I show you the introduction short clip.
High-risk neuroblastoma is predominantly seen in children. The standard treatment for children in the UK and Europe is outlined by PsyOpen and includes induction chemotherapy, stem cell harvest, surgery, consolidation treatment, radiotherapy, immunotherapy, and retinoic acid.
So there's a QR code at the end if you want to see all the animation videos. And what I should have said, probably most importantly at the beginning of this, is that everything that I talk about today has had huge parent involvement. Many people that are in the room today, and I thank you all for partnership work, and it just shows how much we can achieve when we work together. I then want to talk about my passion, which is obviously the REDMAP study, and that was looking at exploring parent treatment decision-making in relapsed and refractory neuroblastoma. So we very much looked around the research questions, or the interview questions with parents were around how do parents make treatment decisions? How does that decision-making change over time? And that's really important, because we know within this landscape, parents aren't just making one single decision for their child, they're making multiple decisions. And also about what is that role of emotion and how that informs and influences decision-making. So the criteria were parents of children who were currently receiving treatment for relapsed or refractory neuroblastoma. They had to have made a recent treatment decision but didn't know what the outcome of that decision was. And parents could be re-interviewed whilst the study was open, and very much encouraged both parents to participate. So we had 18 parents participate, of which 12 were mothers and 6 were fathers. The majority of them had made one treatment decision, and I think 4 have made kind of 2 treatment decisions, up to 6 treatment decisions. As we would probably expect, the majority of them were parents of children with relapsed disease, and then 4 were parents of children with refractory disease. And the asterisk indicates that 3 parents were interviewed twice. So I am going to share some of the parent quotes. I think they will resonate with many of you in the room, so I just want to kind of give you a forewarning for that. So the research findings were divided into 4 different themes. Time, which was very interesting because time came up yesterday in some of the conversations about how that kind of structures and informs decision-making. The uncertainty in its relationship with treatment risks, side effects, and outcomes. How you as parents manage your cognitive and emotional adjustment as you navigate this field, and about what you saw as your responsibility and involvement in decision-making. So if we look at time, time was really divided into kind of 2 structures. So subjective time, so very much around the individuals of what time gave parents. So of course, parents were all looking for a cure, but as time kind of went on, they were looking at kind of prolonging their child's life, kind of quality of life, and what that meant. So some parents very much focused kind of on the decision that they made at the time, weren't able to look forward and make kind of subsequent or plan for further treatment decision, potential treatment decisions. Other parents were looking at kind of A, B, C and options in the background, and very much kind of weighing that all with their child's quality of life. So this mum said, you can read left, right and centre, but the relapses are so specific to individuals, it's pretty much a wait and see and read up and get the information as we go. Whereas this other mum said, I'm looking into things in the background and we're trying to inform ourselves about what else is out there and what the options are, just not in the UK, but elsewhere. So if things aren't going to plan, we've got a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. And then this mum said, we probably will go ahead with treatment, but it's difficult to think, how much time have they got? It feels like a bet, a gamble, a risk. You're gambling some time when my child's not going to feel great, and you have to spend that time really carefully. The other component to time was about objective time. So parents really needed time to gather information about their child's disease, research treatment options, and that really supported them in kind of making their treatment decisions. So this mum said, we spent hours, based on our research, we thought that sounded like a good option to try. This dad said, we're looking through hundreds of PubMed papers, so the whole day, from the moment I wake up, it's devoted to trying to get my child better. And then all around uncertainty, we know that there's uncertainty around relapsing and refractory disease in terms of kind of outcomes, but also in terms of kind of treatments and whether those treatments are going to work and the effects that's going to have on their child. So very much at the time that they were told their child had relapsed or refractory disease, all of the first treatment decisions were made and driven by their child's healthcare professional. And that was really because parents were kind of overwhelmed with kind of the information of, I'm suddenly having to be involved in making treatment decisions. My child has relapsed or got refractory disease, and trying to really process that. So this mum said something the doctor said, you're going to have to live with the decisions for the rest of your life. And so that made me really think, because any one of those could be a right or wrong decision. And as parents made kind of repeated treatment decisions over time, very much the conflict between their child's quality of life and the treatment options that were available and how that was going to affect their child, particularly as they kind of went into maybe, early phase clinical trials. So this mum said, for us, it was not putting the child through really intense treatment from the get-go. Obviously, if my child needs it, then they will have to make the decisions around that. But for the time being, if something is working and it's providing a quality of life, then we're more than happy to continue. And this mum said the quality of life is first and foremost, but then you have to balance that. Does that mean that you don't try for something? And then there was this continual oscillation between kind of cognitive and emotional adjustment, very much relevant to their child's diagnosis. So at the time of being told their child had relapsed refractory disease. So this mum said sometimes the information that you would have been told was not getting fully processed. And it's been emotionally draining. You try to maintain the situation and how challenging it is to make the best decisions for your child. And then this was a kind of, as parents kind of opted or made a decision around a treatment, it was about what that response to treatment may look like. And so this dad said it's about weighing up the cost of everything, because that's what it seems to be now. With every treatment, there's a cost, and it's weighing up how big a cost each thing is going to be. And then, as I said, as parents were making kind of repeated decisions, very much influenced about that child's, their quality of life, the decisional conflict of how they may feel in the future. So this mum said, what are going to be the implications of treatment? There's the kidney problem. Well, if both kidneys are damaged and the child hasn't got lots of life left, is that going to result in spending a lot of time in hospitals for a secondary problem that was caused by treatment? And it's kind of anticipation of kind of future feelings. So the parents were making a decision now, but how are they going to feel about that decision in the future? So this mum said, you're factoring in the data and everything and deciding whether it's any good or not. And then you've got to factor in how you feel years down the line. And then overall, parents really, and we've seen that, the parents really felt that they had a responsibility to be involved in making these treatment decisions for their child. Initially very much around focusing again on that child's quality of life. So I will always do what's in my child's best interest no matter what. I would never ever let my child suffer. But all I can do is try and find out as much information as I can, and then I have to make a decision and hope that's the right one. And then we're all here today about seeking support from the neuroblastoma community and what that gave parents. So this mum said, there's nothing more helpful than a parent who's further down the line in research. It helps having information given to you on a level that you can understand. And then this dad said that we're on groups of parents, but one thing we always keep in mind, because we've experienced our own, is we're careful to read things, not read too much into people's emotions. Everyone has a different understanding of the disease, and sometimes you need to cut through the noise that parents write about in the heat of the moment, or after a long time with reflection, you have to try and be objective. And then this is very important about working collaboratively with healthcare professionals. So this dad said, I read research papers, which is when I found out about the different neuroblastoma sites. I've got little understanding of it, and I didn't want to go into too much into it without the professional opinion of the consultants. So as parents were making these repeated treatment decisions, as I said, they've built their own knowledge and experience through their own child. And very much, as they're gathering their own research, they are taking that and working collaboratively with their healthcare professionals, are very much about a shared decision-making partnership. But as they were making repeated treatment decisions over time, and treatment options could be exhausted within the UK, and they started seeking kind of second opinions elsewhere. So this mum said, I suppose if we're being really honest, there's a definite feeling that remission will be off the cards, and you're looking more at a palliative route. Whereas when you're talking to other consultants internationally, you hear about children who are on their 6th or 7th relapses and they're still going. Well, you didn't hear about that in the beginning. So this was all very much around increased self-advocacy and how they're working with healthcare professionals, and in some cases, recognising that that relationship sometimes broke down if treatment options were no longer available or exhausted, but parents were kind of seeking second opinions from elsewhere or travelling abroad. So this mum said, I found the consultant is once they've relapsed, that's it. My consultant knows what my opinion is, so you may have given up on my child, but I won't. It's like they're numbers, but that's my life and that's my heart and soul walking around. And then this father said, we don't feel like anyone's given up. We just feel that there are options that aren't available here, and that's why you pursue them. And if we could have it here, then we would. So how does all of that translate into the REDMAP website? Oh, I should talk about the conceptual framework. So this was very much about, we've got 4 themes, and there's a lot going on for parents, and actually how do we bring that all together? So this was very much around kind of time being that kind of essential aspect of what parents needed, particularly as they made repeated treatment decisions. But there were all these factors that influenced and enabled and informed how parents made treatment decisions. And so how does that fit into the REDMAP website? So the REDMAP website was co-designed with parents, some of who are in the room today, so thank you very much. And we looked at what the key messages were, so around kind of practical supports to support parents in making treatment decisions, signposting them to resources that were already available to make sure we weren't duplicating work, really supporting that cognitive and emotional impact to know that parents aren't alone in this decision-making, and providing resources that facilitate and nurture those conversations with healthcare professionals, particularly as we know that sometimes that can break down over time, and then support parents through the aspects of repeated treatment decision-making. So development approach was using the Medical Research Council framework for developing complex interventions. There was a parent stakeholder group, there was a clinical advisory group that reviewed all medical information that's included in the website. We worked with a brilliant website development team, and then we did some kind of what's called kind of initial user testing with parents that weren't involved in the development process to have a look at whether or not the website was kind of acceptable and usable and accessible for parents. So this is a short video on the website. This is the homepage. Hopefully it'll work, yes. And there's different ways that you can navigate yourself into kind of the resources, so where to start. They are kind of the main bulk of what the resources are. And then you come to the individual page and you can click on to all the different aspects that are there. We've tried to make it interactive. As I said, we've signposted to other reputable resources to not duplicate. We've included videos from healthcare professionals and parents talking about their experiences, and a bit about kind of how this website has been informed by the REDMAP research study, and of course, the parent group that were involved in co-designing the website. So this was just some of the user testing feedback that we got in terms of kind of navigation of the website, kind of the colours and how that kind of made them feel, a bit about kind of how we've kind of chunked the information to make it kind of accessible. And most importantly, obviously we've got this website now, but it's about how we can continue to develop that to making sure that we're meeting parent needs. So we often put out on our social media, which the lovely Naomi manages for me, in terms of kind of, we really need your feedback to make sure that we are continuing to provide information that remains relevant and informative, it continues to meet your needs, and also it's delivered in accessible ways. So very much would welcome feedback as we go along. So I owe it to the parents that were involved in the study, who were interviewed, but also the, members of the patient public involvement group, the parent stakeholder group, received various grants and fellowships for the work. The website, the RedMap website, has been part funded by a programme grant by SKC and Neuroblastoma UK. And this formed some of my doctoral work, so I have to, also got my PhD supervisors. So I'm more than happy to take questions. I put some the QR codes there to the animation videos for the HR2 clinical trial. All of the full extent of the findings from the study has been published, and there's also a QR code to the website. So I don't know if anyone has got any questions.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Carla. My little boy Alfred has recently relapsed, so I've been on the RedMap website, and it has definitely helped things feel slightly less daunting, which is amazing because everything's daunting at the moment. My question was about the longevity of the website, because I mean, with relapse, I feel like the thing that we can all hope is that we could be around having treatment for a few years. That would be amazing. Is the website tied in with like time-limited funding, or is there a plan that it will be here for kind of a long time in the future?
It's a good question. So I'm currently writing my sustainability plan for the website. So yeah, there's funding for the next 2 years to support the kind of hosting costs of the website and the support costs from the development company. But we will be needing to look for further funding for longevity of it for sure.
Helen, it's fantastic. The website, having that resource, obviously for families like Alfred's, with Carla and Dave, who are needing that resource right now. As a parent, I made repeated treatment decisions, and I have no regrets, and that is really important. And my question is, what happens next with RedMap? Because we've heard over the weekend all the advances in neuroblastoma treatment. But actually, whilst that's an amazing thing, for everybody as parents, the advances mean increased decision-making. Therefore, decision-making is going to only become increasingly more complex, and the impact that might have on parents in the future. So over time, that repeated treatment decision-making is just going to become more intense. And I wonder how we can think about that now, so that when that time comes for some parents in 2 or 3 years' time, because there's more options again in the UK, what can we be thinking about and supporting you with, Helen, for RedMap to continue this in the future?
Thanks, Vicky. So I think for me, one of the stark things that came out of RedMap in the findings was about that relationship with their child's healthcare professionals, in particular the child's medical consultant, and the fact that often, in most cases of all the parents that participated, broke down over time because they weren't necessarily on the same page. They'd exhausted treatment options in the UK. They felt like their child had been given up on. We've talked this weekend about hope and how important that is for families. And so I haven't spoken to many of my healthcare professional medical colleagues about this yet, but very much would like to do some work and some research around their perspective of decision-making and how they support families in that repeated decision-making nature, really to try and embed shared decision-making throughout. And whether that looks, so kind of having findings from that, from the healthcare professional perspectives and the parents, and joining that up together, and whether we can co-produce some sort of toolkit or something that helps both sides of the table work together collaboratively throughout that repeated decision-making nature. I think we've got time for one more, and then we'll wrap up.
It wasn't a question. It was actually more just from a healthcare professional's perspective, it's more just a thank you for the work that you've done to put into this, because before, when families were coming to you with these decision making, you would have to signpost to various different places, to different healthcare professionals, and what you've done is put a lot of the work into one place, which also is very helpful from the healthcare professional point of view, because now we can signpost to one place that has a lot of the resources that they actually need. So it was a thank you on that part.
Thank you. Thanks, Demi.